Buen Camino, everyone. I'm back with another book review. If you watched my review of Dialogue with Death, this is happening like seconds later. If you didn't watch that one, well, then here's just another video for you to watch. So the next book I'm going to review is the second book that I read in 2020, maybe the first book that I read entirely in 2020, because I might have started Dialogue with Death before New Year's. But this book I read back in January, and it was published in November of 2019, so this is a very new book, and it's by Rebekah Scott. So chronologically, this is the first thing that I read from Rebekah Scott, but review-wise, I've already talked about her translation of another book called The Great Westward Walk. That book was a Camino memoir. This is not a Camino memoir in the traditional sense, and that's what I loved about it. This book has been one of the best books that I've read this year. I think of the three in the Rebekah Scott, the novel that she wrote, the translation, and then this book, which is nonfiction. This is my favorite of the things that she has been involved in that I read this year. It's probably my favorite thing that I've read all year, actually. It's one of my favorite things that I've read about the Camino. My other reviews on Camino memoirs, I've compared things to The Field of Stars, which I think is like the best Camino memoir that I've read so far, and I've read quite a few of them. I'm not going to compare this book to that because other Camino memoir books, they follow a certain path. They follow, either somebody getting ready for the Camino, going out on the Camino, describing their life on the Camino, describing their thoughts and how they change, and climaxing in Santiago. And this book is not that. This book is a book about people who uprooted themselves from America and moved to a rural village in Spain, and then just started life on the Camino. Now, they don't run an albergue, but they don't not run an albergue either, because their house is kind of like this well-known stopover for pilgrims over the years. And they started in 2006. So this book, even though it was published in 2019, is covering the year 2010 because it's a holy year on the Camino de Santiago. I like that she used the holy year as the framing mechanism. I think that it's kind of nice because her life is settled, and then she can kind of flash back and flash forward of what her life is like in this rural village. So Rebekah and her husband is also American. He's British, sorry, but he was living in America, and then they went to Spain. It's really fascinating, the cultural description that she has just of the small town, separate from everything in the Camino. And then maybe 2/3 of the way through the book, after describing her life, her animals, her house, the pilgrims that she takes in, everything that's happening in the Holy Year, there's a death that really affects her. And she was kind of planning on going on a Camino anyways. And then she decides definitely to do so and to dedicate this to her friend that died. And then that person's family ends up tagging along with her. So it reminded me a little bit of some of the things that have happened in some other books, like The Great Westward Walk, where he's kind of got people tagging along, and he really wanted this solo Camino, and then he kind of loses that opportunity because these other people are tagging along. However, she kind of takes it with a lot of grace because it is the family of the person that she was walking to honor. Rebekah is a tremendous writer in this. I kind of wish I had reviewed it before I reviewed her novel because I'm not as keen on the novel. I thought that this was amazing. I thought that there were some parts of it that were just breathtakingly written, that made you stop, circle back. It wasn't like a next page, next page, next page. Sometimes you would read a passage and you would just be captivated by it and reread her description of something, especially her internal thoughts, and especially the passage that the title comes from, A Furnace Full of God, when she's talking about her faults, but she says, but deep down at her core, there's a furnace full of God burning inside her. If this was the only thing I had read of hers, I would say, my God, why hasn't she written 100 more books? I don't hate the novel, but I'll review that separately. But it's one of the best written, most powerful memoirs. And it's like I said, the memoir of a single year. I really like the holy year as a framing device. 2010 was quite a while ago now, and we're headed now into 2021, the upcoming holy year. If you watch my video about coronavirus, I really kind of question what's going to happen in the holy year. Well, I definitely question what's going to happen for the rest of this year, and I question what the Camino is going to be like going forward, what kind of changes might have to happen because of social distancing and just because of fears of future epidemics. But this, I think, since this is going to be the last and biggest, 2010 was the last and biggest pre-corona holy year, I think that this is going to stand out as a historical document. Interestingly, this is kind of a short review for a book that I found so meaningful. I think that if you're at all interested in the Camino and you read Camino memoirs, and maybe you're a little bit sick and tired of reading Camino memoirs, but you don't want to be, this book will kind of refresh how you feel. Because it's a book about life on the Camino from a different perspective, but it also includes a pilgrimage as part of the narrative, but not the entire narrative. It's amazingly written. It's very funny. It's very witty. It's very deep and touching, irreverent at sometimes, which I also like. And I think that it also bridges the gap. In my review of the Great Westward Walk, I talked about how I really like the perspective of a native of Spain, of a Basque, of someone who lived along the Camino, going on his own Camino and doing things his way and giving the local perspective. It's not, a German or an American or a Brit or somebody from Belgium that's doing it. It was a local person, and I really like this. It kind of bridges the gap because here's like an American and a Brit who become part of this Spanish community, but also live this life where they're very integrated, but they're also kind of different because they still have the foreigners in town, but they become very integrated into this village. And then also it's like a story within a story. It's the story of the holy year of living on the Camino, the pilgrims that they encounter, the people of their village. And then this this holy year is kind of like a story within a story, and then the story within the story within the story is her actual pilgrimage. And then she does describe her return and kind of the rest of the year for a little bit of perspective. Her pilgrimage comes pretty late in the year. It's an absolutely wonderful book. A lot of great descriptions about people, about animals. You always know how I like people's descriptions of other people and their interactions and those kind of social aspects when writing about the Camino, because it is a social experience as much as it's cultural or physical or spiritual experience. I've got nothing else to say on this book, so it's going to be a short review. I highly recommend it. Rebekah Scott, A Furnace Full of God. Don't make me pick between this and Of the Field of Stars. You have to read them both. If you read two books that people write about the Camino that are from a personal perspective, it's To the Field of Stars and then this book, Furnace Full of God. Put those two on your reading list. Buen Camino, guys. I'm gonna more videos coming up soon. Hope everyone's staying safe and isolated and taking care of yourself. Get out there and walk if you can. It was a beautiful day today out to hit the trail, so there's still Caminos out there. Buen Camino, everybody.